have any comment on the FEC violation filed against your office?
There is no violation, so there's no violation found.
Do you think that's a sign of you taking dark money?
Oh, no.
Maybe. That was brand new reaction from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to a potential bombshell complaint filed with the Federal Election Commission against the freshman Democrat and her chief of staff. The allegations, being lodged by the conservative National Legal and Policy Center, claim the congresswoman and her top staffer improperly funneled nearly $900,000 in campaign contributions from political action committees to private companies. Peter Doocy is live on Capitol Hill with the latest. It sounds ominous, Peter.
Kennedy, the reason for the red flags here is because when all that money moved around between accounts that were controlled by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's chief of staff, it was all just labeled for strategic consulting. And the chief himself explained all this on national TV 3 years ago.
Our idea really is to run this single unified presidential style campaign that's going to look a lot like the Bernie Sanders campaign and use that model of, a single website for fundraising, a single like a giant national movement of volunteers contacting millions of voters.
But that might have been too broad because the law says specific payments need to be labeled specifically. So what comes next could be a big test for the freshman congresswoman, who is very enthusiastic about other people's financial records, telling the New Yorker recently, "I can see Trump being enormously upset that a 29-year-old Latina who is the daughter of a domestic worker is helping to build the case to get his financial records. I think that adds insult to injury to him." The Federal Elections Commission complaint was lodged by the Virginia-based National Legal and Policy Center, where an official explains these are not minor or technical violations. We are talking about real money here. In all my years of studying FEC reports, I've never seen a more ambitious operation to circumvent reporting requirements. Representative Ocasio-Cortez has been quite vocal in condemning so-called dark money, but her own campaign went to great lengths to avoid the sunlight of disclosure. And you might have noticed in that soundbite that played during the introduction, the Congresswoman was coming back at the airport, which was surprising to us because air travel is one of the things that gets phased out over time in the Green New Deal that she supports. Our crew asked her why she flew and didn't take the Amtrak train from New York down to Washington, D.C. She said because it saved a couple hours of her constituents' time. Kennedy?
We all know that's not true, Peter. It's much faster taking Via Sella. Peter Doocy, thank you very much for that. Very good. So, Maria, we'll start with you.
Yes,
Let's talk a little bit about this dark money, because that's one of the new phrases in politics that people who want to see authentic and ethical campaigns want to get the dark money out of politics. But this money is not looking...
Yeah, so we
should
point out that the organization that filed the complaint with the FEC does have a political leaning. It is a conservative organization, so that they're very upfront about that.
Absolutely.
The FEC will look into these allegations, and we'll see what comes from it. The question of dark money is a good one. I worked on the 2012 campaign where we had conversations about super PACs, for example, and we very much wanted all of the donations for people to know them, but how you interact as an organization with super PACs, this has all changed a lot in the last 10 years. And one of the things, just to look at 2020, Elizabeth Warren, for example, talking about she wants no dark money, she wants everything out in the open. There will be a question about this issue for all of the Democratic candidates for that exact reason, Kennedy. Setting aside legal or statutory issues, there's a question about how Democrats want to run their campaigns and whether they want their donors and donations to be public.
Yes.
I just want to clarify for the audience in case they didn't get what was happening here. So this is her chief of staff, who himself is a financial whiz and a multimillionaire. He created a PAC and had people donate money into it. And that was his PAC. And then he shifted the money into an LLC that he also controlled. And Fox has, gone back and backed up these facts and looked for where these places were incorporated, et cetera. The reason why that looks suspicious is because the same rules don't govern an LLC for disclosure
the way they do
as a PAC.
Yes. Right.
So then when it goes into the LLC, it becomes much less transparent. So where did this money come from? What was it used for? Did they go over the limit for what was allowed with the campaign? And who got the money?
How is that not money laundering, though?
Well, we don't
the
know.
tax look that an LLC gets is very different than a PAC.
Right, over $200. You have to declare expenditures over $200, which is way over. This is $885,000. It was the Congress PAC and Justice Democrat PAC that went into something called a brand new Congress LLC. And the question that you might bring up is, okay, I gave $10, I gave $15, I gave it to see that she's elected and supported. I didn't give it to put it into an LLC. So how do people feel who donated to the campaign that it ends up in something that we don't know where it's heading, let alone the illegality of it?
Well, we don't know the legal issues of it. There's been a complaint filed by a conservative group, and it'll be looked into. This is all part of the post-Citizens United. You know, a lot of people, especially on the right, have been pushing for taking down some of the campaign finance regulatory things that had been put in place over many years. They want some of these regulations gone. So this is just
a violation of a 1971
we don't know.
federal election law.
That's the accusation.
That's the allegation, yes.
So, but this is the world we're living in, post-Citizens United, where there's more dark money in politics. It's easier to give more dark money. It's a problem across the board, setting aside the legal issues.
I just want to ask the question, you know, if you're going to go through the trouble of setting up these two entities to shift money from one to the other, and you control both, it's hard to say that that's not for suspicious or bad reason. Why wouldn't you just spend it out of the first one?
Do you have evidence of that?
Why would you do it?
It's limited liability. You can't sue a corporation like that.
For the reason that Brian gave,
well, why would you
we just publicly want to know why that is. Because some people gave their money under the understanding that it was going for one thing, strategic whatever, and then it may have, and that's why you look into it. It may have migrated or been forcefully put into another place, and you just want to ask the question for the very reason that you gave.
Right.
Just like the House Democrats are just asking the question.
Right.
And to get all these answers.
But what happens is when you
we all agreed Mueller was going to get some answers. I'm just saying.
Let's not go back to that.
But don't you think when you open up and attack people on finances and by saying no planes and no cows, and you caught eating meat and flying on planes and having meat on planes, there's a problem.
But we don't know what
the plane itself may have been made out of meat, Brian.
We don't know
This story is about her.
Lady Gaga's dress was once.
That's absolutely right.
This story is more about her than it is. I mean, there's just an obsession with her.
Everything about her.
And so,
every
and so
single
her
thing
opponents.
is about her. Instead of the president's financial life, and the president doesn't like that a 29-year-old daughter of a domestic worker is looking at his finances. It's like, come on, man.
Her opponents make it all about her too.
We've got some interesting new information tonight about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. When she ran for office last year, she described herself as an enemy of big money in politics. Watch.
This really speaks to the corrupting force of money in politics in general, and this problem is not going to go away until we tighten the reins on the role of money in politics. I really hope that we really introduce and pass very strong legislation that's going to put much stronger limits on how special interests and how money can be moved, especially when they interface with campaigns.
Yeah. She doesn't like when money moves and interfaces with campaigns. Of course, Ocasio-Cortez is also a sworn enemy of carbon, but that didn't stop her from taking hundreds of Uber rides when the subway was just a few feet away. She may feel the same way about money. For you, but not for her. A new FEC complaint accuses Ocasio-Cortez's chief of staff of diverting $1 million in donations into private accounts, apparently to obscure how that money was used. If true, the complaint could result in prison time. Ocasio-Cortez was confronted about this allegation today, and here's what she said.
There is no violation, so there's no violation.
Do you think that's a sign of you taking dark money?
Oh, no. I'm 100% people funded. Thank you.
She's people-funded, she wants you to know. Speaking of people-funded, Melissa Francis, who hosts Outnumbered, also one of our all-time favorite people on Fox Business, joins us tonight for an update on this story. Hey, Melissa.
Hey, Tucker. So here's what this really boils down to in my mind. So it should be noted that the group that brought the complaint to the FEC is a right-leaning organization. We want to say that up front. But if you boil it down, basically what she and her chief of staff are accused of doing is moving almost $1 million from a PAC fund that they controlled over to an LLC, a limited liability corporation that they controlled. So were I her, I would ask this gentleman in the photo here, who is a multi-millionaire, tech and finance smart guy who's running her campaign, I would say, hey, why am I moving this money, these donations that were made to me from this PAC over to this other account that I control. I control them both. Why move it? What difference does it make?
Yeah.
Well, one difference could be, look at the rules that govern both. And the rules that govern a PAC are very clear and much more strict about how much you can spend, where it came from, what you have to disclose, how you list things. When it's an LLC, a limited liability corporation, the rules are very different, much lighter. And she marked a lot of stuff strategic consulting. And you can do that rather than itemizing things. Now, is this illegal? I don't know. Both sides are going to have their arguments in court about this, no doubt. And by the way, the rules that govern campaign finance are written by the very people in power who are trying to hold on to it. So talk about the fox guarding the hen house. So the people who wrote these rules that she's saying, we're going to rewrite the rules, more people who have come to power and are trying to hang on to it. So is this legal under the rules? I don't know. We have people saying it's not. Both sides will argue and we'll see. But what's interesting is you just have to ask yourself, why did you need to move it from one thing you control totally to another thing you control totally in order to make the expenditures? It sounds like that dark money that she's talking about, but we will see when they investigate.
Well, just, I mean, quickly, the fact that we don't know anything about it, the fact that it's not itemized, doesn't that, by definition, make it dark money, or at least opaque money?
It doesn't make it bright money. It doesn't make it transparent money. It makes it obscured money. At the very least, it is obscured. There is not a bright light shining on it. But Tucker, I mean, you made the point before. Think about what socialism is. Like, the very definition is a government takeover the means of production. It's a power grab.
Yes.
That's what she's been all about, is a power grab. I'm in charge. I'm the boss. We go to Washington, we decide, we get the means of production, we get control, and we tell you all what you get. It all has the same theme if you boil it down to its most basic sense. So she doesn't want other people using planes, but she'll use a plane going back and forth between D.C. and New York because she's important. It means she's the ruling class. She's powerful.
Exactly.
She's important. So she gets to do these things. But for you and me, we're just, the serfs along the way. So we shouldn't, have a carbon footprint. We shouldn't do all these other things. And I
will
think
see you on the bus, Melissa Francis. They have Wi-Fi.
I love the bus. I love the subway, the Q train. It's right by my apartment. I'll see you there.
Melissa Francis, one of the best. Thank you very much.